Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this, guys. Welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. So my name is Samantha. Some of you may have seen me. Some of you may be brand new to our channel. Just want to say welcome and thank you for joining me during this live. So the title of this video basically says drones, DNA, and EMF, everything you need to know. Guys, we're going to be we're literally going to jump across multiple very important topics, all the way from the Christian school shooting to the new Supreme Court ruling to DNA being manipulated by EMF waves. We're going to talk about angels or military sniffing drones in our skies. And we're even going to talk about how all these whistleblowers against the FBI, CIA, and big corporations keep ending up dead. So we're literally going to just go back and forth, and I'm going to show you the most up-to-date information on all of these topics. Why? Because they do affect you all the way down to the cellular level. You're being affected by what's going on. Good morning, everyone. And so let's start with this. What is EMF? Okay. So before we can even talk about EMF is affecting our DNA, we have to be able to at least know what an EMF is, right? So that is an electromagnetic field. It's an area of energy that surrounds electrical devices. Okay, so EMF is generated both naturally and man-made. And it encompasses frequencies. All right, so that's the important word there, folks, frequencies. So you have static fields. So everybody's been shocked by static electricity. Low frequency fields include fields produced by power lines and electrical appliances, and it goes up to 300 hertz. Radio frequency fields are emitted by wireless communication devices, your cell phone, radio, Wi-Fi, and that goes up from 3 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz. Then you have microwave and infrared radiation. And EMF can impact biological systems, leading to ongoing research into potential health issues. Now, the reason I brought this up was I saw some very disturbing videos of what's going on with the birds in New Jersey. Did you guys see that? Good morning, everyone. A lot of people, yes, I'm reading in comments that a lot of people are feeling just a little off, especially you guys up where these drones are being sighted. And why? Because your DNA can be affected by electromagnetic waves, EMF. Research indicates that exposure to EMF, especially at certain frequencies and intensities, may lead to various biological effects, including but not limited to DNA damage, cellular stress, which will affect how your DNA is able to repair itself. So in other words, you'll get sick and you can't get better. That's a scary thought. Changes in your genes expression. EMF exposure has been linked to alterations in gene expression, which can impact cellular function and health. Thermal effects. Higher frequencies of EMF can cause heating in tissues, which may indirectly affect DNA stability and function. So you're getting a lot of free radicals. Why is this important? Because we're being bombarded every single day. And it's getting worse as they're introducing 5G towers, as they're rolling out all these new frequencies along the coast, like I did the one on the fish dying in Florida. Well, they put a bunch of frequency wave models into the ocean there, and it's just constant frequency. It says here that, okay, so drones, I was curious. How could these drones be affecting wildlife? Why are the birds flocking like they are? And it says because the noise and presence of drones will disturb wildlife, causes stress. It alters their natural behaviors, such as feeding, mating, nesting. Okay. Habitat disruption. Drones can disrupt habitats by physically intruding into sensitive areas. It changes movement and patterns. The animals may change their movement patterns to avoid drone presence. Now, having said that, excuse me, let me show you guys what I found, and it was super disturbing. I'll keep the sound off, but I want you guys just to watch Those are birds flocking. Do you see that? It just looks like a bunch of black stuff in the sky, but those are actually birds in formation flying out of New Jersey. See them? Look at this, birds, millions of birds. Okay. So why are the birds responding like that? I know. Good morning, everyone. Oh, hi, Desert Dove. She says she's a new subscriber. Thanks for joining our family, friend. So that really bothered me when I saw these birds flocking like that. And I'm like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I want to talk to you about, before we get into the whistleblower stuff and the shooting that happened and all of that. Let me find it for you guys. Patience, Patty Wan. Patience. Wanted to talk to you guys about, where is that video? Kind of really good video for you guys talking about DNA. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Oh, here it is. This guy's amazing. He was talking about how all this stuff is affecting our DNA.
And this might explain why in the book Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, he talked about how over the course of technological development, first we had electrification and there were various health pandemics that occurred. And then we had the introduction of, telegraph wires, and then we had phones, and then we had the first radio systems and transmitters and radar and cell phone networks. And as each one of these technologies was introduced, he could match it to a certain
pandemic
health issues among the human population and also animals and bees and everything else. This kind of gives an explanation as to why, because if you have DNA and DNA is acting as an antenna that absorbs all, or that can absorb all these different frequencies under the right conditions, then, well, there's your explanation. How is it possible? That might be it. But back to our paper, DNA is a fractal antenna in electromagnetic fields. I want to just kind of read you a few little excerpts here. With EMF, studies show a cellular stress response. In other words, cells see EMF as essentially a toxin, or as the same thing as radiation, so they protect themselves. And there are actually 3 different responses depending on the level of the threat. So the idea is that certain EMF will cause a stress response, right? Just like ionizing radiation. Certain EMF will cause a single strand break, and other EMF can cause even a double strand break in your DNA. And they note specifically that many studies have shown that the damage that EMF causes appears to be similar to that of ionizing radiation, as in X-rays, gamma rays, what we typically refer to as radiation. Now, of course, for over 20 years, scientists have been arguing whether DNA is conductive or not, and so we can clearly see why we haven't actually gotten anywhere. They're also clinging to things like evolution to explain everything. Now, the idea with evolution is that mutations occur, and some mutations are beneficial, and there you go, that explains everything, you're done. But if you read books like Genetic Entropy, you'll discover that when a mutation occurs, 99.999% of the time,
it's bad.
It's actually a bad mutation, not a good mutation.
Nope.
So that kind of takes the whole theory of evolution and completely blows it out of the water. And this doesn't really surprise me, because when I learned this about DNA as a fractal antenna, and I thought about that fractal globule, that ball that it's not actually tangled, but it unwinds and winds just effortlessly and is never actually knotted up. What I thought of was actually a computer chip, because you have parts of the DNA depending on the configuration. Because first of all, it's constantly in motion, apparently. Second of all, depending on the configuration, parts of it are conductive or not conductive, kind of like switches in a microchip. Switch is on, current passes, that's a 1. It doesn't, that's a 0, right? That sounds like a switch. Put multiple switches together and you get a logic gate. Put multiple logic gates together and you get, a computer chip, essentially. Yep. But I'm pretty sure that Mother Nature didn't have binary code in mind when she was designing our DNA, right?
And God.
So, okay. But it's also an antenna. It's not, so it's like a 3D, is it an information processing thing? Is it just a reconfigurable antenna? It appears to be a fractal antenna at the very least. And of course, the big question is, like, what the heck is it receiving EMF for? I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't designed to receive a text message from your significant other.
Listen to this.
Or a cell phone call or something. So what is it designed to receive? obviously not the radio waves and other electromagnetic fields from our technology. So is it supposed to receive consciousness? Is it receiving, information from the information field? What is it receiving? I mean, this raises more questions than it provides answers, but
So his question is a good one. He basically breaks down the fact that your DNA is a fractal antenna built that way, not by Mother Nature, but God. Why though? What was it intended to receive? I want you to think about that through the whole day. I want you to pray on it. I want you to ask God to give you wisdom and knowledge. And tomorrow, I want you guys to give me your answers. I know in my heart what we were intended to receive, and that's the Holy Spirit. So when the Bible says that I want you to heal spiritually and physically, there's a verse that says that, like, as you grow spiritually, you'll heal physically. There's a reason for that, you guys. We were created to receive. Our DNA is created to receive. But as usual, what has Satan done? It's all about the Antichrist. It's all about the opposite of what God intended. So we're being bombarded with waves and frequencies. Our bodies were never created to receive. Let that sink in today. Hit that like button for me. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We go deep into topics. Some you may not like, some you may love. That's on you, friend. But one thing is, I'm not going to hide things from you. I'm just going to share it, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to grow from it as a community. Exactly, Gina. Counterfeit. Everything Satan does is the counterfeit of what God intended. So book zealots had a great question. They said, do these EMFs have anything to do with the mRNA juice, or am I wearing a tinfoil hat? I think you were on to something there, friend. I know for a fact there were metals in that, because I told y'all before, my husband and I had taken our first COVID vaccines because my mother, long story. Anyway, if you don't know that story, go find the video. It's out there. We took them. When we came home, I stuck a refrigerator magnet to the site of the injection on my husband's arm, and it stuck, and it stayed there. Now, you couldn't put the magnet anywhere else. It would just fall. But this is like 45 minutes after the injection, and the magnet stuck. So it is what it is. Now, we had people lay hands on us, pray for us. We took communion. We asked God to forgive us and cleanse our bodies, and we've never had an issue since then. So I believe the Lord can take away anything. That's it. He created you from dust, folks. So, that's where faith comes in. But I wasn't saved at the time that I took the injection. So it is what it is. Now, moving on. Now that I've told y'all that, before we hop off the topic of EMFs affecting your DNA, I do want to tell you a few things real quick you can do to mitigate the amount of exposure you're coming in contact with, okay? Limit your device usage. We all know that. Use smartphone, speakerphones and headphones. Keep a distance from your router, your microwaves, and your televisions when possible, especially if they're on. Turn off devices when not in use. Don't leave your iPad going. Turn it off. And that way you keep your phones and your iPads and your computers out of your bedrooms. Have an EMF free zone so that when you sleep at night, you'll sleep better. Shielding products. Consider using EMF shielding products like protective cases for your phones, EMF blocking fabrics, copper-filled pillows, and of course, the tower busters that we've talked a million times about. It does just minimize. It's nothing's 100%. All right, just minimize. And then it just says monitor EMF levels. Consider buying an EMF monitor and basically checking the different devices, folks, and products that you're bringing into your home. May be worth the money. I'm serious. Limit using wireless devices. Replace wireless devices with wired alternatives, such as keyboards and mouses. Rather than doing this, get the old-timey fashion that are plugged in, because then it won't be producing as much EMF. Okay? Our sister at Redemption Shield has good products. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Somebody said I had issues with Fitbit. It disrupted my sleep, something fierce. Yes. Yeah. So you guys keep sharing on the right. Good morning, Leslie. I wasn't sure if I was going to wake you up when I sent you that text this morning. Leslie and I are 2 hours in difference. And sometimes when I go live, it's still very early where she's from. So, all right, guys. So now let's move to the next thing on. We've talked about EMF, the drones. What is going on with these drones? I've had just about enough, but I found a guy this morning that I felt did an excellent job explaining what's going on. I want to share him with y'all. I'll put all these videos in description.
Uploaded this footage, but I'm going to show you some other footage in a few moments that are connected to this. And this is like really, really wild. Okay. Now let's talk about these orbs. They're calling them plasmoids. Now, what does this have to do? Well, there's some talk about Nikola Tesla and, how he had done some work that was kind of restricted and, not made public. And it could be something like that. But what I'm going to show you is like there seems to be some sort of like intelligence connected to this. And so now we're kind of bring it all together because remember I said I'm going to do this in 3 parts. And we had the first part in the beginning, the second, now we're in the third and final part. So you've got orbs objecting orbs in NYC. And here's what a plasmoid is. This is the definition of it, because this is the conversation that's being happening. And then I'm going to show you that one of these plasmoids interacting with a drone, and it seems as if it's disabling it, but with a form of intelligence. And it's actually maneuvering in such a way that can't be recreated by even a military grade drone. Okay. So a plasmoid is a coherent structure of plasma and magnetic fields that behave like this self-contained entity. This is like the scientific definition of it, and it often appears as a compact blob-like or spherical formation in a plasma environment. And so plasmoids, they can actually occur naturally, such as in space phenomenon like solar flares. So again, we got a lot of people here. I have footage. I've been to CERN twice. I've been to Geneva, Switzerland, and I've been to CERN twice. Matter of fact, I'm going to be releasing that footage here shortly. And subscribe to my channel if you want to make sure you're here for that. And so there's talk about CERN, these the Large Hadron Collider that's smashing particles and opening portals. By the way, it gets even weirder because I don't know if you saw this, but to celebrate the Jubilee, the Vatican is actually going to open up 5 doors. And the Vatican is referring to them as portals. And I was actually also in Rome recently at the Vatican, and I was there in where one of the doors is going to be the seal is going to be open. So you've got CERN opening up multi-site globally. People don't even know that. The Large Hadron Collider, particle smashing, all this bizarre stuff. You've got the Vatican that to celebrate Jubilee opening up doors. As a matter of fact, their verbiage translated from Italian is portals, that they're going to open up 5 portals, which by the way, I'm going to be doing a video about that as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe button right now to join this channel. Then you've got these orbs that are being, and I'm going to show you more footage of them. So like I'm telling you, and okay, I don't want to lose you because many of you are watching right now, and I don't want you to think I'm a Bible thumper, and I don't want you to think I'm beating you with the Bible. But what I'm saying is these ancient texts, they seem to indicate that there was some sort of interdimensional, which I would call a spiritual activity. And when you hear, like when you read about in the book of Jude, there's this warfare that's happening between Michael the archangel and Lucifer over the body of Moses, or the burning bush experience with Moses, even Elijah that gets taken up in a chariot, a whirlwind of fire. These things are very difficult to explain with the language and what, you think about ancient people trying to put words to these things. And so I think for some of you that have like shut down to the idea of the supernatural or the spiritual, my hope is that as these things are transpiring, you realize that you have been brought into this interdimensional battle between God and Satan. And there is a war happening right now, and it's unfolding right in front of our eyes. And I'm saying that because, somebody in the comment section said, I'm a Bible thumper, unashamed. But you got to understand, man, Russell Brand is like unapologetically dealing in these topics right now. And you've got guys that were like anti-Christian now having like openly Christian conversations because some of the language in the scriptures.
All things work to the glory of God. Can I get an amen? So you saw the orbs reproducing themselves. I got a phone call last night. Okay. A gentleman that lives close to the Ozark Mountains, where there's some military bases. And for the past year, there have been orbs there. And the orbs come in first and they're doing something. And then the drones come in. The drones are able to cloak themselves. Believe it, don't believe it, that's on you. But I showed you months ago that the Chinese have now got a cloaking device. They show it. They put it up in front of the person. You can no longer see the person. If they can do that standing, they can do that on a plane. Now, that's not the only crazy thing that popped up. They had this pop up over Tampa.
Just an hour away from where I live in Tampa Bay, Florida. Well, I have something to show you, and it's going to fascinate you more than what you're seeing because I know what that is. I know exactly what that is. And well, you're going to too if you just continue to watch this video for about another 10 seconds. Here you go. First, don't you worry yourself about that. Trust me. But second, when you type in this US patent number right there, you'll be surprised what you see. Oh, look at that. A triangular spacecraft that has a US patent number. So just make sure when you're seeing this, you are not all hysterical thinking that UFOs are coming because, well, we know who owns that.
They have technology that is so much more advanced than what you and I are privy to, friends. And when I get phone calls from people who live close to these bases, especially in the mountains, and they said that the portals actually look like they're orbs. Okay, so they've got these orbs in the sky, and then it looks like something pulls away from it. They said, I believe these might be charging, like they're charging ports, right? Because how are you powering these drones and these orbs? They have to have a power source. So the caller informed me they think that the tiny orbs are coming back, powering up, and then shooting off, which it makes it look like it's multiplying, you know? Miss Susan, if you'll go back into description of video after I'm done with the live, I will have everybody's videos I'm showing listed there for you guys. Hi, sweetheart. Everybody, please take 1 second, hit that like button for me. It does help push this video out because more people need to understand what's actually happening right now. Now we're going to just kind of bounce over. I know some of you heard about the Christian school shooting that happened yesterday, and it is heartbreaking. It is frustrating that another school has been shot up. It's horrific. Like, this didn't happen when I was a child. Just didn't happen. But I want to show you guys what some of the most, you see these people right here? These are some of the biggest school and place shooters in the last 2 or 3 years. They were all trans identifying. Okay. You got the Cost shooter identified, non-binary. Denver shooter identified trans. Aberdeen shooter identified as trans. Nashville shooter identified as trans. Philly shooter identified as cross-dresser. Perry shooter identified as trans. The Wisconsin school shooter has been identified as, some people are calling her trans. Some are saying that she was just a feminist. I'm not sure, but the word on the street is she was on testosterone. She was real into, that is her. She was real into all those shooting things that have happened. And she had like, it's just weird. Just so you know, it's not the guns, it's the mental condition. Most trans people are on some type of SSRI and opposite sex hormones. It makes people unstable. Okay? Parents of trans should be 100% liable for the death of anyone. Anyone experimenting with a child's hormones at the most volatile age should be held responsible for the outcome. I totally agree with that. Why am I not surprised? Guns don't kill people, but people with mental illnesses do. Goes on, it says, good God, trans is less than 1% of the population, but recently they seem to do all the mass shootings. Think that might have to be coached or encouraged by the left and mainstream media. Why do we always cover up the shooter is trans when it's so obvious? Their profile pic makes them look male. The drugs are destroying them in every way. I agree with that. Promoting trans needs to stop. Biden tells America to choose transgender over Jesus. I agree with that. The shooter has been identified as Samuel Hyde, a trans student. When she went on to say in her manifesto that all men must be exterminated, only then can women be free to create a new world. Someone wrote on X, she skipped science class. Birds and the bees. Definitely need to be having a real discussion about birds and bees. This is how manipulated these young minds are. She believed all male species must die so that women can move forward. Guns don't kill. Those that willingly offer guns to a person that clearly had red flags everywhere kill. Her parents had purchased the gun for her. And then you have this. It'll start. Hold on.
Our hearts go out to the trans community as they are under attack right now.
That was after the last trans committed murder. That was what the White House had to say. That didn't go with this school shooting, but the prior one. So I think we need to have that conversation. I think this woke ideology in school systems needs to go. People wonder why there's less support now for LGBTQ plus than ever. And it's because it's not, you have every freedom that I have. If you're in that community, you literally have every freedom that I have, but you're considered a protected person now. You're considered a minority. And I agree. When you change people's hormones, you're going to get responses that are unexpected. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. It was very disturbing. Please keep the families in your prayers. Let's move on to the Supreme Court ruling this morning. This is about immigration, folks, and it's important.
That will allow Trump to deport people en masse and not have really much legal pushback on it. This was a 9-0 ruling, and it determined that federal courts cannot review a federal government decision to revoke an immigration visa. This means that if illegal immigrants are up for deportation, they're going to have a much more difficult time bringing their challenges to U.S. courts. If they revoke the visa, they don't have any kind of legal recourse for it. In other words, Epic Times said this. It says the U.S. Supreme Court ruled unanimously on December 10th that federal courts may not review the federal government's decision to revoke an immigration visa. The court's 9-0 opinion in Bofra v. Mayorkas, again, DHS Secretary, was written by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and that's the respondents.
So basically what it says is that the Department of DHS, the supervisor at the top has the ultimate say-so on not allowing a visa to be reinstated. They also want to remind people that President Trump does not want to dismantle DACA, okay? The Dreamers program. He does not. What he wants to do is remove all the millions of illegal aliens that are like ticks on our communities. We cannot support them. If they want to come here, they need to come here the correct way, in a way that they can support themselves. My daughters moved to New Zealand, and before they could leave, they had visas to work. Before they could leave, they had to have enough money in the bank to prove that they could support themselves when they first got there until they got a job. Yeah, because they didn't want people coming there and living off the system. And I'm not sure why Americans seem to think we can't expect that. If they can pay a coyote thousands of dollars for a family to cross the border, then they can have come correctly with thousands of dollars in a bank account and support themselves when they get here. All right. So moving on. All right. What is going on with all these whistleblowers dying? It seems like anytime someone comes forward, tries to tell the truth to the American people, they end up uncomfortably, their life ending, and somehow they all get real depressed and do the same thing. The chances of 5 out of 5 whistleblowers ending their own lives, it's like 1 in a 32 million chance. Okay. I want you to remember that. So it doesn't make sense why all these people that whistleblow end up dead. Like it doesn't make sense, guys.
San Francisco apartment. Suchir Balaji, 26, claimed the company broke copyright law. We have this post from Tiffany Fong, who says OpenAI whistleblower Suchir Balaji was found dead in his San Francisco apartment. His death was ruled a suicide. This was his final post on X. He said, I recently participated in a New York Times story about fair use in generative AI and why I'm skeptical fair use would be a plausible defense for a lot of generative AI products. I also wrote a blog post about the nitty-gritty details of fair use and why I believe this. To give some context, I was at OpenAI for nearly 4 years and worked on ChatGPT for the last 1.5 of them. I initially didn't know much about copyright, fair use, etc., but became curious seeing all the lawsuits filed against Gen AI companies. When I tried to understand the issue better, I eventually came to the conclusion that fair use seems like a pretty implausible defense for a lot of generative AI products, for the basic reason that they can create substitutes that compete with the data they've trained on. I've written up the more detailed reasons for why I believe this in my post. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, but I still feel like it's important for even non-lawyers to understand the law, both the letter of it and why it's also why it's actually there in the first place. That being said, I don't want this to read as a critique of ChatGPT or OpenAI per se, because fair use in generative AI is a much broader issue than any one product or company. I highly encourage ML researchers to learn more about copyright. It's a really important topic, and its precedent that's often cited, like Google Books, isn't actually as supportive as it might seem. Feel free to get in touch if you'd like to chat about fair use, ML, or copyright. I think it's a very interesting intersection. My emails on my personal website. So that was in October 23rd. And they're saying now that, I guess they're ruling it's a suicide. Yeah. He was found dead. Mm-hmm. Strange. Yeah.
My husband said, good morning. Good morning, Stephen. He's watching me from work. So, so you have this young man, right? Open Chat GI. We talked about these AI systems yesterday, especially Open Chat. That's like Chat GPT and all of that stuff. Well, he whistleblew about all the copyright. Well, obviously they're breaking copyright laws because they just pull information from anywhere on the web, not caring who it actually belongs to, and puts it together for you. And so now he's gone. He's a very nice looking young man. It says so many whistleblowers end up dead and nobody bats an eye, but one CEO of an inhumane company gets killed and now it's a problem. She's got a good point. Because you've got both of the Boeing whistleblowers gone. Are y'all ready for this? I found this last night. All I have to say is if they take my video down for this, I'm going to be furious. The Clinton Deadpool. First one, this comes from this all the whistleblowers against the Clintons. Ready? James McDougal, Clinton's convicted Whitewater partner, died of an apparent heart attack. Mary Mahoney, a former White House intern, ended up murdered in July of 1997 at a Starbucks. The murder happened just after she was to go public with her story of sexual harassment in the White House. Number 3, Vince Foster, former White House counselor and colleague of the Clintons, died of a gunshot wound to the head, ruled a suicide. Number 4, Ron Brown, Secretary of Commerce and former DNC chairman, reported to have died by an impact in a plane crash. The rest of the people on the plane also died a few days later. Air traffic controller committed suicide. Number 5, C. Victor Razor II. Razor, a major player in the Clinton fundraising organization, died in a private plane crash, July 1992. 6. Paul Tooley, Democratic National Committee political director, found dead in a hotel room in Little Rock, September of 1992. Described by the Clintons as a dear friend. Number 7, Ed Wiley, Clinton fundraiser, found dead November 1993, dead in the woods in Virginia of a gunshot wound to the head, ruled a suicide. Ed Wiley died on the same day his wife, Kathleen Wiley, claimed Bill Clinton groped her in the Oval Office in the White House. Number 8, Jerry Parks, head of the Clintons' gubernatorial security team in Little Rock, gunned down in his car at a deserted intersection outside of Little Rock. Number 9, James Bunch died of a gunshot suicide. It was reported that he had a black book of people which contained names of influential people who visited prostitutes in Texas and Arkansas. Number 10, James Wilson, found dead in May 1993 from apparent hanging suicide. He had something to do with Whitewater. Number 11, Kathleen Ferguson. Number 12, Bill Shelton, Gandy Baugh, Florence Morton, Suzanne Coleman, Paulie Grober, Paul Wiltshire, John Paul Walker, Barbara Wise, Charles Meisner, Dr. Stanley Hurd. I'm going to read their names. I think they need to be remembered. Barry Seal, Johnny Longhorn Jr., Stanley Huggins, Herschel Friday, Kevin Ives, and Don Henry. Known as the Boys on the Track case, reported saying the boys may have stumbled upon the Mena, Arkansas airport drug operation, a controversial case. The initial report of death said due to falling asleep on railroad tracks. Later reports claimed the 2 boys had been slain before being placed on the tracks. The following persons had information on Ives Henry case: Keith Coney, Keith McCaskey, George Collins, Jeff Rhodes, James Milan, George Winters. The following Clinton bodyguards are also dead: Major William S. Barkley Jr., Captain Scott J. Reynolds, Sergeant Brian Hanley, Sergeant Tim Stable, Major General William Robertson, Colonel William Dinsberger, Colonel Robert Kelly, Specialist Gary Rhodes, Steve Willis, Robert Williams, Conway LeBleu. The following Clinton bodyguards are, okay, that's all. Sorry. And the most recent, Seth Rich, the DC staffer murdered and robbed of nothing on July 10th. And not included in this list were the 4 men killed in Benghazi. Those were all whistleblowers for one family, all of them dead. Now you can find that list online. I'll attach it in description when the video is over, so you can actually read what these people had on each one. But it just, you guys, look at this. This was November of 2024.
And reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse, okay, we already asked a question about retrieval programs. Do any U.S. contractors have the same?
I would prefer to address it in a closed session, ma'am.
Of law enforcement resources, misconduct in leadership ranks of the FBI. And I've been here 5 years, and during that period of time, Director Wray and AG Garland have both sat in desks just like that under oath and testified that they would not retaliate against whistleblowers. And it's my understanding, Mr. Friend, that you went through all of the required regulations at the FBI in order to raise your concerns to your supervisors. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you followed inside protocol for the FBI, utilizing whistleblower statute protection information regulations through the FBI to make your complaints and information be known.
Yes.
And you did that to your supervisors.
3 levels of supervisors.
3 levels of supervisors, and the response to that was losing your security clearance, shutting you out, losing your job, taking away your pay.
That's correct.
I'm so frustrated and angry.
And reverse engineer alien craft, yes or no?
Yes.
Does the U.S. government have any reverse?
Okay, so let's keep going because it gets so much deeper than that, you guys. This one's for a CIA whistleblower.
Regulated elections in dozens of countries. We created standing armies and directed them to fight. We went after to organize ethnic minorities to encourage them to revolt. The first thing we did in Nicaragua was to go to the Mosquito Indians, who had never gotten along with the other people in Nicaragua very well, and give them more money than they had seen in the entirety of history, and arms and training and rationales and sanctuaries in Honduras, and sent them into Nicaragua to attack, kill, fight, rape, burn, pillage. And this is an insidious thing. Every society is torn with racial conflicts and conflicts with minorities. Think how violent our nation is. Think what if there were a superpower so big that we didn't dare even flat back or strike back at them, that were coming to our minorities with huge sums of money and arms and training people from our minority groups and sending them into the country to do open acts of violence. How we would rise up and the bloodbath that would ensue. And this has been a technique the CIA has used in Nicaragua, in Thailand, in Vietnam, in Laos, in the Congo, in Iran, Iraq with the Kurds, in different parts of the world. We created, trained, and funded death squads like the Treasury Police.
Every terrorist group on the globe can you can find a CIA member hands deep in it, folks, hands deep in it.
Justice Department approved it, and we're gonna start on it. I said, I don't know. I think I have a problem with that. Let me think about it for an hour. So I went back up to the 7th floor. There was a very senior CIA officer up there who I had worked for 10 years earlier. And I said, hey, I just got approached and asked if I wanted to be certified in these enhanced interrogation techniques. What do you think of that? And he said, first of all, let's call a spade a spade. This is a torture program. And you know how these guys are, he says. Somebody's going to go overboard and they're going to kill a prisoner. And when that happens, there's going to be a congressional investigation and then a Justice Department investigation, and somebody's going to go to prison. You want to go to prison? And I said, no, I don't want to go to prison. So I went back downstairs. I said, this is a torture program. I want nothing to do with it. So they asked 14 people, and I'm sorry to say that I was the only one who said no. 2 of us said no in the beginning, and then 1 changed his mind. But I was the only one in the end that said no. I'm glad I did. In retrospect, I was right. They were wrong. But things got much, much worse before they got any better.
Guys told me that this pole shift will probably happen from start to finish in around 28 minutes. That doesn't give you a lot of warning. When you see that thing out there in the sky, you're going to have to run as fast as you can to your underground facility, because this is going to happen so fast. Now, see, here's another thing nobody's talking about. You've got this giant iron planet that they say is 47,000 miles across, getting ready to come up past us. And when it starts to approach us, it's going to start and have real serious effect stuff. And so, you know, and it does sound reasonable to me, knowing what I do about electromagnetic energy, that this could happen. And it very easily could gut everybody's brain for everything they ever knew. And they'll stand there and pee in their pants and go, gee, what was that? And that's if they still know how to talk. And there won't be any doubt in anybody's mind, because this thing's going to look like a big red dragon, exactly like all the ancient Sumerians and the Chinese and all the rest of them that had documented this thing's passing before. It didn't look like a white ball or a snow cloud or nothing. It looked like a big red iron oxide dust cloud with a superheated star in the middle of it. And I mean, you know, and that's what we've seen.
I think that's what they were saying about NASA. Don't worry about NASA saying there's this superheated, huge iron, or like that's kind of in our shadow that's supposed to pass. And when it does, because of electromagnetic EMF, think about the whole world could go dark if it was to fizz it all out. That's what they're trying to say there. Now, whether or not any of that is true, I tell you all the time, you have to learn to filter information, friends. Now, this is my favorite out of all of the videos I found.
And know how to defend yourself. Make 3 to 4 friends in your neighborhood and promise to come to each other's mutual aid in times of hardship. And during the Great Depression, people stocked up a pantry. So I think that's a good practice, especially in our economic times, and make sure you have 3 to 4 months of food. As a person of faith, I'd say pray the rosary, go to the First Friday devotions. That's for everybody, all my brothers and sisters of all faiths. And I know I'm Catholic. And read the gospel of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and live it every day. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for the time.
That was in front of Congress.
This man.
Arm yourself and know how to defend yourself.
Now, this came from Candace Owens, and about how the CIA has consistently. Why am I showing you all this about the whistleblowers and the CIA? Because the issue with the drones, we cannot trust our government. We can't. I told you about the Smith-Mundt Act yesterday. I told you about the legislation they're soon to pass. If you can't trust your government, folks, you have a problem. And we in America have a problem.
Figure out exactly what's going on in the skies. Whit Johnson is here with more for us. Good morning, Whit.
Hey, Robin, good morning. There are more than 1 million drones registered with the FAA and thousands operating in the sky on a daily basis. But as rumors and frustration continue to grow, federal officials are now worried about people taking matters into their own hands. This morning, the FBI and Department of Homeland Security ramping up efforts to investigate reports of mysterious drone sightings in the Northeast. And law enforcement now warning of a new danger for air travel.
We're seeing an increase in pilots of manned aircraft being hit in the eyes with lasers because people on the ground think they see a drone.
The officials also worried someone may fire a weapon at an aircraft, saying it's not only dangerous, but against the law. The unexplained drone sightings reported in at least 7 states. In Ohio, over the weekend, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base outside Dayton temporarily closing its airspace because of drone incursions. The FBI receiving nearly 5,000 tips so far amid growing fear and uncertainty. Federal sources tell ABC News they're deploying infrared cameras and drone detection technology to ensure drones flying over New Jersey and New York aren't a threat. Local leaders briefed by the White House, including Mayor Mike Caselli of Montvale, New Jersey.
We still don't know who the actors are. We don't know what they're doing and who's operating them. That's the unsettling part.
The government is looking at social media, videos, and photos to determine what these sightings could be. President-elect Trump demanding more transparency.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went.
But the Biden administration insisting there is no evidence to suggest.
I love him. And I don't know. Somebody just, what are you asking, Lisa? Did I hear Samantha Wright? She agrees with Biden saying choose trans over Jesus? No. I don't know what it sounded like I said, but I most definitely did not say that. Okay, so let's do this clip of Candace Owens. I love her, but she really busted this open.
Historical and present, because they're reading the Washington Post and they're a part of this sort of elite people who know not to give into misinformation and disinformation, and even the overusage of those terms obviously to me feels just like a Project Mockingbird, conspiracy theorists and things of that nature. And it's like, how much information could there be out there before these people are willing to accept that your government is lying about virtually everything.
Virtually everything.
And a small group of elites run the entire world, in my viewpoint.
Yes, and even Pompeo said, he told Bobby Kennedy's a friend of mine, and as a matter of fact, Bobby was kind of encouraged me to write this book. Pompeo told Bobby Kennedy, after he came out, he regretted not doing the reforms that the CIA needed. Well, not only did he not do them, he instigated and carried out an assassination program. So this is the way that it works today, one of several ways. One is, for example, Google. The CIA funded, along with DARPA and NSA, what was called the Massive Digital Data System, or MDDS, which was a massive system of surveillance to gather up all the information on everybody in America on the internet backbone, and then be able to collate that into birds of a feather, identify groups that were maybe threatening to the U.S. or what have you. Well, what Larry Page and Sergey Brin did was after it was done, they took MDDS out and they turned it into Google. So Google is using the MDDS background developed by the CIA and NSA and DARPA. That is what Google is now. And you can see how they're censoring conservative speech. And they just censored my great interview with Ken Matthews, simply because we're talking about this sort of thing. So, but there's a quid pro quo amongst even now between the editors of these major news networks, especially CNN, MSNBC, and even some conservative news networks, where as long as they do not do any investigation of the CIA and report anything negative about the CIA will leave them alone, and they'll actually feed them stories from anonymous sources, feed them stories so they'll be the first ones to break it. The moment that any outlet really does an investigation of the CIA, that is cut off immediately, and the agency starts putting out disinformation about that network. And any journalist like Gary Webb who dares to investigate the CIA, they'll be fired, their career will be ruined, and they all know it. And when you think about it, when's the last time you saw any major mainstream media news outlet do a serious investigation of the CIA? Maybe never. Well, there's a reason for that. They know that their survival and their career depends on not doing that. And that's why the new programs, yours and others, they didn't count on people like you and me coming out and saying this is what they're doing. And now with new news programs, they're freaking out.
Yeah, they are. And you can see they're starting to have that conversation about podcasting and misinformation and how we're going to get a wrangle on this. And I think it's just going to be very difficult for them, especially within America, because too many people are awake now. Right. And what we've been able to prove is they will find that information. They'll go around. If you ban me from YouTube, they're going to find me on Spotify. You ban me from Spotify, they'll find me on Apple. So one of the things that we got a lot of people asking me to ask you about was Benghazi. Now, before we get there, and you guys, please just allow me.
So I just wanted to share that with you because I think that we have to have this conversation. There's science that we don't know about. So let me tell you this. Imagine this. It will look like magic if you don't understand the science. It will look supernatural if you don't understand how far ahead they are than what you have been able to learn, what you've been able to find on your own. They control the search engines. They control right now. Only so many people that need to see this video will ever be able to find it because they will bury it if they don't want the information to come out. So that is where you guys, we have to pray. We have to pray that God provides supernatural protection over my channel, over the newsletter that Leslie writes, over each and every one of your lives, because you can go too far down the rabbit holes. And I've seen a lot of people do it, and I make people mad all the time. I will stand behind the fact that I truly believe that Q and white hats are another CIA operative. Just like I believe the trans movement, I call it Operation Switch. I believe that the CIA implemented that nationwide. Why? To control birth rates, to destroy people. I mean, there could be so many different things, but I do know this. They're moving the entire world to a transhuman in the days of Noah. That's what it'll be in the end times. So we're not quite there yet, but we're moving there. And part of that are these drones and these orbs. If they're dropping biological chemicals or sending frequencies out that change your DNA, you have no idea, guys, what they're capable of and where they're willing to go to keep Trump out of that White House, to keep your vote from being counted. Now, I saw something yesterday, and of course, I put up on that this was horrific, that they're trying to get rid of, and they have been for the past 20 years, the Electoral College votes. Somebody said, I'm trying to be open-minded. Why is this bad? Because America's a constitutional republic. It gives the same amount of rights to the minorities as it does to the majority vote. So if you remove Electoral College votes, what happens is Seattle, Portland, New York, Los Angeles, those dense areas with millions and millions of people, their voices will be heard louder than the fringe groups on the outside that don't match up to theirs. The Electoral College is set there to keep us as a constitutional republic where all voices have equal say. Yep, just like they're trying to expand the Supreme Court. Yes. Guys, our system doesn't need to be changed. We just need to weed out all the people that have been abusing it. We need to move it all out. I totally agree that Chinese have purchased land near or around military bases in the U.S., and they also make military drones the size of course. I said this last night to someone. I almost feel like the Chinese already have bought out our government, and everything you're seeing is because we've already been overrun and we just don't know it yet. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. Please take a moment, subscribe, comment, share this video. Please hit the like button, guys. The longer you watch, the better it does in algorithms to help other people. And it is important that we get this information out to as many people as possible. This one's a little more. Oh, this one's amazing. Listen to the Tulsi Gabbard right here. This is a
grave concern about the fact that President Trump is doing something that has not been done before in what Bobby just talked about, that he has a privately funded transition team that is already getting to work. And they're like, well, how come he's not using taxpayer dollars for this and going through the Government Accountability Office? Something is very wrong here. Well, we should all have hope at how freaked out they are, because we're not allowing Joe Biden's Government Accountability Office to control President Trump's transition team. But this is what we're talking about. They're freaking out because they can't place their moles within the transition team to try to figure out what Donald Trump is doing so that they can spin up their media propaganda machines and try to preempt and undermine the work that we are doing to bring great patriots together to actually fix the government. So the doing things different has already started. And the more you hear these people in Washington, the freak out, the more you should know, like, all right, we're doing good.
I love her.
Contributed to the world.
I love her. She's great. She's good stuff.
Against officials at Homeland Security who you believed were violating the law.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Has anyone at Homeland Security been disciplined?
Oh, thank you for the super chat. Thank
Demoted.
you.
No, and to the contrary, promoted.
Promoted. Anyone fired for failing to comply with the DNA law?
No.
The only ones disciplined are sitting right here. I've had my law enforcement credentials, firearm taken away from me. I've had my law enforcement retirement taken away from me. And we will tell you this, in a law enforcement environment, publicly removing someone's firearm is the ultimate insult and degradation.
I was basically iced, left to sit at my desk every day, do nothing but the most menial tasks. My future career options, because I was working in such a limited sphere, all that future potential vanished in a day.
I was demoted 3 levels. Like Mr. Taylor, my firearm was taken, my credentials were taken, and it was the final blow to a professional career. And what we did was we came forward. Not in 75 years or so of combined service have one of us even had a written or verbal disciplinary action.
One of the supervisors said, very matter of fact, the agency's goal is to bankrupt you, make you quit, die, kill yourselves, or basically preferably all of the above.
And do you want to know what they did? They came forward and they whistle blew that they were no longer DNA checking these children to the people that were saying they were these kids when they crossed the border. Why? Because there's a child trafficking ring going on in this country right now. And I've got proof. I can't wait to show you guys this. I just found this one today. Is this one the right one?
Case is centered
Yep.
in Morgan County. That is where Elena Sparrenberg is
Hold on.
conspiracy to.
Hold on, you guys. Let me get it going.
What police call demonic rituals and cannibalism.
The case is centered in Morgan County. That is where Elena Sparrenberg is charged with conspiracy to human trafficking and solicitation to murder. Our team found out about her arrest yesterday. Overnight, West Liberty Police explained in detail what she and an inmate are accused of doing. Mariah Congito is at the alert desk. Mariah, that information pretty hard to read. Yeah, definitely is hard to read. It's very disturbing. It dates back to September when the West Liberty Police Department got a criminal investigation referral from Kentucky Department of Corrections Internal Affairs investigators regarding intercepted inmate and visitor correspondence. That visitor, Elena Sparenberg. Sparenberg, a former youth counselor out of Illinois, was identified as that visitor who is talking with the Department of Corrections inmate. Now, he is from Harlan County and has been in jail since 2021 on several charges, including murder. During the course of the investigation, police executed a search warrant at Sparenberg's home in Illinois. They seized electronic devices. Police say the correspondence between Sparenberg and the inmate included images, videos, electronic messages, letters, and calls. Their conversations referenced minors and adults regarding sexual abuse, rape, kidnapping, murder, mutilation, torture, satanic rituals, cannibalism, human trafficking, abuse of corpse, collecting human remains for sexual purposes, and more. Police say images depicted minors from a sporting organization. Coaches and parents have been notified, as well as others who police say
that was recent, like 4 days ago. Let me explain something to you. Wherever the sheep are, the wolves are coming. All right? That's where they're coming. Wolves don't hunt where there's no food. Okay? Predators don't look for children in an old folks' home. We have to become better at vetting the people coming in contact with these children. We have got to reinstate the DNA testing at the border for these children. We need to find these 500,000 plus immigrant children that are missing in our country, and we cannot turn a blind eye to it anymore. How can we ask a God of love to bless us when we won't even have the conversations that we need to have? You understand? I mean, guys, it's just to the point where we know they're doing this. I'm telling y'all, they may not let this video stay up. I'm just saying they get real upset about this. There's one I want to play here. I'm praying about it because I know if I put it up, they're either not gonna monetize this video or they may strike me. I'll stop it.
I've been to Egypt multiple times. One of the times I went to Egypt, I was brought there and I was put on a stone. It wasn't a stone slab, but it was like a stone altar, more like an altar. And they were going to kill me. I remember it was like an ancient. It wasn't just a stone altar. It was inside of ruins. There were, not pillars, but like it was ruins, and there was a stone altar inside, and I was laying on the altar. And
yeah, and she gets out. So it's very prevalent right now. They're just moving people around the world in these, airplanes late at night and stuff. I even heard a very disturbing one about Bernie Sanders, because they say they put these people in these positions so that they can control them while they're in Washington. So all the rhinos, all these people that have been in Congress and the Senate for more than 5 or 10 years, they need to be weeded out, because the deep state, they have something on all of them. You know what I'm saying? They have information on all of them. They have set it up. Even if these people weren't those type of people to begin with, they put them in the positions and they frame them to make it look that way. So, yes, God does win. He does win. But what do I always tell you guys? My people perish for what? Lack of knowledge. And on this channel, we're not perishing. We are not perishing. I refuse.
to say you're going to be tempted to click off, but it might be the most life-saving moment that you've ever encountered. There is Team Jesus and there is Team Lucifer, and you have to make a choice because there is no middle ground. And what's happening is, as the end, I feel the power of God even getting ready to say this. Some of you guys are going to get incredibly upset, but just please hear me. The reason why you've lived your entire life and you've never seen these anomalies in the air, and now all of a sudden you see this stuff, and all this stuff is happening, is because as the end of the age comes, Lucifer is being more and more open, but him and his demonic minions, with their activity in the earth, because he is afraid. He knows his time is up. And if you just want to say,
what a beautiful way to end this video. He knows his time is up. Pray up, get straight. It's okay. You're not perfect. Nobody is. But just love Jesus with all of your heart. Let that happen. Understand that if you knew someone's house was on fire and they were inside sleeping, you would do everything you could to wake them up, right? Because why? You wouldn't want them to die. Well, don't let them die spiritually. Share Jesus with somebody today. Share your testimony of what the Lord has done for you. Remind yourself, don't be a nag. Don't be a grumpy person. Speak life into every situation. Because, yeah, there's all these drones flying around. Whoop-de-doo. We'll be just fine. We all lived through the big C, right? We were all trapped in our houses for 2 years. I think we'll be perfectly okay. I just wanted to, this is the one more thing. Wanted to show you guys the possibility, the statistical possibility of all these whistleblowers dying.
Hey, we got some weird ones. Of course, we remember John McAfee. That was another one. We won't talk about this one. I don't want to get my channel taken down. But this was another one. I mean, we've had loads of these. So let's have a quick look at the calculations. And ironically, I use ChatGPT. So I sort of asked statistically, what are the odds that 5 out of the 5 whistleblowers of these such large scandals committed this, right? So it went through, and I really had to get a little bit granular. So this is one of the later attempts. It's 9 per 100,000 people per year. That's the WHO stats. So it's about 0.009%. So we've got these stats. I asked it to look at some other stuff as well on another thread. I wanted to get this really accurately. However, even under increased stress, it's rare to see cluster like this. So they're saying it's rare. So we did some calculations on it, and I had to go back and forth on it. I did some of the threads on this, by the way. This isn't just the only one. So I did some calculations on this, and the odds of it were 1 in 32 million. So that is the odds of these 5 people.
So 1 in 32 million, a possibility that 5 whistleblowers, and 5 of those whistleblowers end their own lives. It's a 1 in 32 million chance. I'm just saying, if it stinks or if it's smoking, it's probably fire. So we're going to stop believing everything our government says. Y'all just heard Trump say it himself. They know exactly who is doing this. Why they won't tell you, we may never know. But I love you guys. I've got to get some stuff done. I promised my husband I would get some things done here, and we're leaving for a trip for New Year's. So I've got to go. If you'd like to support our channel, I'll drop that in the top of comments. If you'd like to get the newsletter, I'll do the same. I love you guys so much. You guys be blessed, be safe, be aware.